you're gonna die. So am I. So, is everyone watching this video, every single human being alive right now, about 8 billion of us, will one day stop existing in the way we currently exist? And here's the thing. That fact has haunted every human civilization that has ever lived. The Egyptians built pyramids about it. The ancient Greeks wrote plays about it. Your grandmother probably has an answer to it right now, tucked somewhere inside her faith. So, what is the answer? That's what this series is about. Over the next 6 episodes, we're going to look at how Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, and Indigenous traditions answer this question, what they agree on, what they wildly disagree on, and what it means for how billions of people live their lives right now. I'm not here to tell you which one is right. That's not my job. My job is to lay it all out fairly, curiously, and honestly, and let you think about it yourself. Let's start at the very beginning. How old is the question, what happens after we die? Older than writing? Older than agriculture? Older, possibly, than modern humans themselves? Around 100,000 years ago, that's 100,000 years, our cousins, the Neanderthals, were burying their dead. And not just dumping them in a hole. They placed food, tools, and decorative shells alongside the bodies. They covered them with red pigment. Now, archaeologists debate exactly what this means, but here's what's hard to argue with. They cared. They did something intentional with their dead. They seem to have believed on some level that death wasn't simply the end. Fast forward to ancient Egypt around 3000 BCE. The Egyptians developed one of the most elaborate afterlife belief systems in human history, a detailed map of the soul's journey, complete with a hall of judgment where your heart was literally weighed against a feather. Too heavy with sin? A monster ate it. Light enough? Welcome to paradise. They were so serious about this that they spent decades and enormous national resources building tombs, the pyramids, to ensure a safe journey into the next life. So the question isn't new. What's fascinating is that when you look across all of human history, across cultures that never met each other, across religions that developed independently on opposite sides of the planet, they're all asking the same question. And they're arriving at some surprisingly similar answers. Here's something that should stop you in your tracks. Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, indigenous traditions from Africa, the Americas, Australia, Siberia, religions that developed completely independently with no contact with each other, they almost all agree on one thing. Something survives. Some part of you, a soul, a spirit, a consciousness, a stream of energy, continues after your body stops working. Now, what that something is varies enormously. We'll get into that. But the raw intuition that death is a transition, not an ending, is about as close to a universal human belief as you can find. There's a second thing almost everyone agrees on, and this one has teeth. How you live determines what happens to you next. Whether it's the Christian concept of divine judgment, the Islamic Day of Reckoning, the Hindu and Buddhist law of karma, or the Egyptian weighing of the heart, virtually every tradition says the universe is keeping score. Your choices matter. The way you treat people matters. Death is not an escape from accountability. For most of humanity, death is where accountability arrives. And third, ritual matters. From those Neanderthal burials to an Islamic funeral today, humans have always believed the manner of dying and being buried has consequences for what comes next. How you send someone off matters. This is why funeral rites exist in every known human culture. They're not just for the living, they're believed to help the dead. Three things: separation by oceans, separation by thousands of years, and yet these ideas keep appearing over and over, like the universe is trying to tell us something. Or, and this is the other possibility, like the human brain, when faced with the terror of its own mortality, consistently reaches for the same kinds of comfort. Both possibilities are worth sitting with. So that's the common ground. Now here's where it gets genuinely fascinating, because underneath that shared intuition, the details diverge dramatically. Take the question of what exactly survives death. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism all talk about a soul, a distinct individual essence that is uniquely you, that faces judgment, and that continues as you forever. Hinduism agrees that something eternal exists, but calls it the atman, a divine spark that is actually a fragment of the universal consciousness, cycling through body after body across thousands of lifetimes, working its way back toward unity with the source of all existence. Buddhism. Buddhism does something radical. It looks you in the eye and says the thing you're trying to save. It doesn't exist. There is no permanent, fixed self. What you think of as you is really just a temporary bundle of sensations, thoughts, and habits. And yet, something still carries forward after death. Not a soul, but a stream of karma, like a flame passed from one candle to the next. The flame isn't the same flame, but it wouldn't exist without the one before it. This is one of the most philosophically interesting ideas in all of human thought. Buddhism teaches rebirth without a soul, which raises the question, who exactly is being reborn? We're going to dedicate entire episodes to each of these traditions, but right now just notice how different these answers are, and yet how each one is a serious, considered, intellectually sophisticated response to the same question. You might be thinking, okay, interesting history lesson, but why does this matter? Here's why. Approximately 85% of the world's population holds some form of religious belief. That means the way billions of people make decisions every day, how they treat strangers, how they handle suffering, how they respond to injustice, what they're willing to sacrifice, what they're willing to fight for, is shaped, at least in part, by what they believe happens after they die. If you believe in heaven and hell, that shapes your ethics. If you believe in karma and reincarnation, that shapes your ethics differently. If you believe in nirvana, a liberation from existence itself, that shapes your relationship to desire, to suffering, to the self. These aren't just abstract theology, they're operating systems for billions of human lives. And even if you're not religious, even if you think death is simply the end, that belief shapes you too. It shapes what you prioritize, how urgently you live, what you think justice means in a world where some people die before they can be held accountable. Everyone has an answer to this question. Most of us just haven't examined it very carefully. Over the next 5 episodes, here's where we're going. Episode 2, Heaven, Hell, and the Day of Judgment. We look at how Christianity and Islam, the world's 2 largest religions, paint a picture of what awaits us, and what's remarkably similar about 2 faiths that often seem to be in conflict. Episode 3, The Endless Wheel. Hinduism's vision of death and rebirth, the concept of karma, and what it means to be trapped in a cycle of existence, and how to escape it. Episode 4, The Flame Without a Wick. Buddhism's radical answer, no soul, no self, and yet somehow rebirth. We explore one of the most challenging and beautiful ideas in human thought. Episode 5, This World and the Next. How Judaism thinks about death, less focused on the afterlife than you might expect, and more focused on what we do while we're here. Episode 6, The Ancestors Are Watching. Indigenous traditions from Africa, the Americas, and beyond, and how the relationship between the living and the dead is very much an ongoing conversation. If any of that sounds interesting to you, and I genuinely hope it does, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and drop a comment below. What do you believe happens after we die? I'm genuinely curious. Read every comment. I'll see you in episode 2.